All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the second episode of O-Tōkushō. Um, it's me, Jack, and I'm here with.
Alex, how's it going, everybody?
It's been well, actually, okay. So it's been a bit of time for us, but I don't know how long it's been since you've heard. So it's nice to have you back. Um, we have since read the the manga that we have chosen since from last time, and oh boy. Before we get to that, though, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go and cover the news that's passed since then.
All right, what's been
Um,
happening?
you don't need to like hold on to your pants or anything because basically nothing's happened.
Oh,
Um, so okay, so the only news that I think is actually important out of all of the things that have happened is that apparently the British Museum, with just what it's called. It's not a museum in Britain, but the British Museum is opening up the world's largest manga exhibit outside of Japan.
oh,
Because
okay.
of course Japan has the biggest one.
All
Yeah,
right.
like yeah. They're not going full weeb where they're like, "Oh, we're going to, one up actual Japan on their art form." No, but it is going to be the largest exhibit featuring like manga art and everything outside of Japan, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, I find it interesting that it's in Britain in the first place because there's kind of like anime fans all over the world, but I suppose there is a large fan base over there, in Britain. As far as I'm aware, of the most like influential otakus that exist right now on the internet, a lot of them happen to just be British.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That
right,
does track.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess it would make sense that it happens to be in Britain. Um, Outside of that, there's only two other real things that I think would be newsworthy, right? One of them is related to One Piece. You're gonna
Oh.
be hearing about One Piece a lot here, just because we both enjoyed the series, and you should too. Highly recommend, but you don't have to. But related to One Piece, though, Yamato, the character, has a voice actor now. Like it's
Yeah.
been officially released and announced that Sayori Hayami, um, is going to be voicing Yamato.
Mm.
I only know them from a very specific genre, and that is harem anime. So and manga. So like
Oh.
the only voice acting role that comes to mind immediately when I hear her name is Icarus from Heaven's Lost Property. But I also know her from like all the other the harem anime that she's been a part of, including the one with the little sister being too cute or whatever. I had a phase, right? And unfortunately, I haven't really gone out of that phase, but
Right.
that's what I know her from.
Yeah. When I saw the list of her credentials, the only one I recognized was Fubuki from One Punch Man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which you could argue is already another harem character
I
just with
mean,
Saitama alone.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, between her, Tatsumaki, and King, and Genos, Saitama's got some options.
She kind of has her own little reverse harem in the beginning of the series too.
Yeah, yeah, this just her entire gang with like all the dudes and that one girl that has a crush on her. But
Mm.
like, yeah, it's no surprise that she was able to gather a following of a lot of dudes in a short time. Um, so outside of that, the last thing that's news related to anime and manga is that we're gonna be getting a new manga. It's joining the hallowed halls of Japanese comic books. And unfortunately, it's another isekai manga, and this one is really dumb.
Oh boy.
So, so for anyone who's familiar with isekai, they're gonna be, you know, familiar with the concept of light novels being adapted and becoming proper isekai manga. Because it turns out, right, a lot of people just in Asia, for whatever reason, like to make light novels that are specifically isekai based. And or like kind of isekai video game thingy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so the one that I'm talking about is one called Reborn as a Vending Machine. I Now Wander the Dungeon.
yeah.
That apparently was good enough to warrant an official manga
Oh
adaptation.
my
So
god.
it's gonna be real and it's gonna be real weird.
Oh man. And if it's one of those Japanese vending machines, it might have like heating elements in it, like
Yeah,
with like coffee and stuff.
there's definitely gonna be something weird going on. Based on what I've seen, there is of course an anime girl, right, on the cover and also in the manga. I have not read it personally, so I don't know the story, but this random anime girl is just kind of carrying this vending machine on her back like a backpack. So she's of course really strong to begin with, but like I don't know what deal they set up with each other to have one just carry the other one around, and I also don't know how like the becoming a vending machine works like anatomically. Like what's the equivalent of having a Coke can fall out of your like lower region?
I don't know.
Like what I can think of some things that might be equivalent to, but that would make the series a lot more interesting and worse.
Yeah.
Like what does it feel like when people put quarters in you? Like I don't know. I know there's people on Earth right now who knows what that's like, but I frankly don't want to talk to or ask them.
It's probably just like eating.
Oh yeah, never mind. Yeah, putting quarters in your mouth, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you thinking about?
All right, so we're going to talk about what we read last week. Preparing for this one now. We're going to go over to the next segment.
All right. Would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right. So I got Golden Kamui, which is a series I was familiar with beforehand. I started watching the anime. I think during the pandemic, and I didn't go get like caught up with it or anything, but it didn't mean that I didn't like it per se.
Yeah, it was just kind of one of those things that you never really, put on like a priority list.
Yeah, it follows a Japanese soldier who took part in the Russo-Japanese War, named Saichi Sugimoto.
Well, that's a hell of a Japanese name right there.
Yeah, he got the moniker the Immortal Sugimoto because
Ooh.
he apparently he received like a ton of like near like supposedly fatal wounds, but just like shook him off.
Okay, yeah, that's a good reason to be called immortal,
Yeah.
right?
It starts off with a flashback in the war, and then it cuts directly to him sifting for gold in like a river in Hokkaido.
So that's where the gold part comes from, I guess.
Yeah, this is like, when does this take place?
Well, because
It takes place
I think Kamui just means cloak, right?
I guess, but yeah, it takes place in like the early 20th century. So like pre World War II sort of thing. And then he comes across, and then this drunk guy comes up to him, and he's like, "Hey, there used to be gold for past the wildest eye, you know." And then like he passes out dead. If I remember correctly, hold on, I actually have the volume in my hands. No, he gets eaten by a bear.
Oh, okay. Also, apparently Kamui is not what I thought it was. It is not cloak. It's a word representing a spiritual or divine being.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So it's like golden god for Golden Kamui or something along those lines.
Sure.
Or golden spirit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Man, and then he like checks this dude's like well, I'm getting ahead of myself. The old dude tells him a story about gold that was in the area, and that these criminals knew where the gold was. But the guy who knew where the gold was in jail, and he wrote.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he like tattooed a map of where the gold was on every single one of his like cellmates' skin.
How?
Like, I don't know, just like with like ink and like a rock, I guess.
No, it just bit him really hard continuously. It's all scar tissue. Ugh.
But apparently, it was done in a way that like you can only read it out if you like skin them like you would have like skin an animal. So this dude, this master criminal,
Seems excessive.
Totally expected like all of the guys with the tattoos to like kill each other, and then one person would get the map, and then they would find the gold.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And this old guy was one of the people who had that tattoo. And Sugimoto's like, "Yo, Pog, I'm getting this gold."
Wait, why does he want the gold? Isn't he like a war hero or whatever?
Well, that's the thing. He got court-martialed because he punched out one of his senior officers.
Were they just being an ass?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's very Jotaro-like, Sugimoto.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mostly in the fact that he just looks like Jotaro, and he's...
Oh, not the fact that he's just kind of like stoic and does heroic things when they like kind of annoy him?
I mean, he does do that sometimes, but it's more like... He's kind of like aloof most of the time, but I think like the most interesting thing about this story is that the old guy gets like mauled by a bear in the woods. And he's like, shit, I need to like get his skin off, and he's approached by an Ainu girl. Ainu being like the native people of Hokkaido. They're kind of like
they're like their equivalent of Native Americans.
yeah, exactly. And the like
well, Kamui actually is an Ainu word, so it makes sense.
so it's all coming together.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
So the girl's name is Isa, and she and Sugimoto make like a deal because the gold was apparently Ainu gold that the criminal guy stole.
Of course, it's Ainu gold.
So they make a deal that's like, hey, I'll help you find these like criminals and their skins if you help me like get the gold back, and I'll give you some of it. So now they're teaming up, and yeah, it sort of just goes through the motions of like them kind of trying to like get used to each other, because like Ainu culture is very like different from what Sugimoto is used to.
So he needs to kind of like adjust.
Yeah, there's a pretty funny joke
cool.
about how Isa thinks that miso paste is poop. Because like, you know, miso is like
well, it does look like it.
Yeah.
But like if that's what they think poop's supposed to look like, they have some serious medical issues. Like it's coming out like bright orange, and it has the same consistency as paint. Like that's not good.
yeah.
Get some fiber in your diet.
There's like a regiment of like troops that get involved later on, and like this dude has like who has like a metal plate over like half of his face.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, and these dudes are like the elite of the elite, and they're also trying to get the skins of the criminals.
Wait, why do they want the gold?
Well, because I think they just want to get no, it's because they're like running out of money. I think like the regiment has been like the regiment has been like shut off from like getting paid or something like that.
So you're telling me this is just like a really roundabout way of talking about how veterans just aren't treated properly by their nations?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but but they are the bad guys though, so it's not exactly like
yeah, that like they could have done something better with their training than just being mercenaries, basically.
Yeah, I guess so. There's also a faction of the criminals led by this like old-fashioned samurai dude who's like the left hand of the one guy who was the criminal who like stole all the gold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. We get introduced to this one guy who's like an escape artist basically, and he was one of the criminals, but like he and Sugimoto get along together for some reason. That's like one of the I think one of the strong suits of this manga is that it's like it works at being both like very serious and also very funny at the same time. Like you'll have a chapter that goes into like the like all the traditions and cultures of like the Ainu people, and like they'll be like explaining a whole bunch of stuff. And then in the next chapter, you'll have like Sugimoto and like the escape artist guy. They'll jump in like a frozen river, and they'll just be like making funny faces for half the chapter.
Yes, it's that kind of humor. Yeah, kind of like just oddly placed, but it's there. Yeah.
But not unwelcomed, I would say.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, Golden Kamui seems to be like it's a shonen, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Right. Well, I mean, by like the loosest definition in the fact that it's like a boys manga.
Well, that it is in Shonen Jump, I guess.
You know what? That also would probably qualify it. Yeah. We don't need to go any deeper than the fact that it's literally published by the Shonen Company. Yeah. So like shonen manga always has like the weird humor that kind of just exists there, but that's like a staple of shonen manga.
Yeah, but I think like it's actually like a really like a fun read because it's like so different of a setting than what I'm used to. Because it's like historical fiction where like Sugimoto's got like a bolt action rifle with like a bayonet on the end of it.
Yeah, like there's like real world cultures and history adding to like the storytelling and the mythos and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a manga that I read a while ago that I think is still going on. It just updates kind of slowly. Called Drifters. Which is kind of like that, where they incorporate like a lot of real life history with like, fictional fantasy elements and stuff, which is pretty cool. Like the whole series is based off of like people who have died in combat being like reincarnated in the afterlife so that they can help like like the demon lords or whatever like claim different territories of hell.
Yeah,
or
I
something
think I've
along
heard
those
about
lines.
that.
Yeah, and like the main protagonist, quote unquote, because there's multiple protagonists, but the main one is like a samurai or whatever. That existed in a battle where his entire deal was that he just ignored his grievous injuries so he could fight his enemies. So he dies basically by being impaled like 800 times, but in the process of like dying, he gets shot by like an entire row of archers. He gets almost cut in half, and he still ends up killing like 300 people. But in that manga, like one of the most important things that exists is like a single guy who died as like a biplane pilot in World War One. Because he's the only one who has actual technology. Like, the most advanced weaponry outside of his biplane with machine guns is the guy who uses muskets. So it's kind of interesting to see, you know, like, these historical points of, like, warfare and stuff kind of interact with each other in there. And, like, the limitations therein. And I think that kind of shows up here, too.
But yeah, it wasn't. I think I saw like parts of the anime that
Oh,
was
for
like picked up by
Drifters?
Studio Madhouse, right?
Yeah. It got, like,
Yeah.
the classic like season one treatment for like a long running series. I don't think they have another one though.
Yeah, I think my attention got drawn to it mostly because it looked like Hellsing Ultimate.
It's the same guy I think that draws it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The art style is very very specific, and like it's just so dark, man. Like how much he's got to go through so much ink to draw anything.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The
But
lines are so thick and so dark.
but that's sort of Golden Kamui. I definitely recommend reading it.
Yeah, and of course this is just the first one too.
The anime is also really good. Definitely give it a watch if you don't really want to read the manga. It's about the same pacing because the anime is like one of those where it's just like a direct adaptation.
Gotta love those. Best ones. Don't need to worry about filler. That, and also you don't need to worry about alternate endings too, because sometimes they do that.
Well, yeah, that's Golden Kamui. You want to move on to your
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about Fruits Basket. Uh, but right before we do that though, I just need to put some context for myself relevant to this to the series. So I read Fruits Basket a really long time ago. I think I was in like middle school or whatever when I first read it, and it's I forgot how violent it was. Um, like there are multiple scenes where one of the main protagonists just draws blood on like on his cousin. Like there's actual fights where they're kicking each other through walls and like breaking each other through tables and stuff. Like there's a running gag that I forgot that they have to replace like the wall outside of their house because they keep kicking each other through it.
oh
Yeah, and this is 100% like a shoujo manga though. Like it is, the art style is all there. The fact that it's like a reverse harem with like, you know, innocent, like a bland, like, you know, schoolgirl character where, you know, you could self-insert yourself and just be surrounded by all of these like pretty boys or whatever. Like it's definitely a shoujo manga, but there's like specific shonen elements to it that I forgot that existed in it. And I understand why now that like 10-year-old Jack really liked this like when he read it. So the main character, the actual main character, the girl, Toru, she's really sad. Like, but she's not sad. She's like the most positive and optimistic person possible. It's kind of crazy. Like we get introduced to her like just living in a tent in the woods because she doesn't like her family and her mom died of like, you know, cancer or some disease or whatever. So
that a protagonist.
yeah, so like instead of instead of living in her old home with like her grandparents or whatever, she just decides to live in the woods by herself. And like we get introduced to like the second part of the plot, which is the zodiac animals or whatever, by her just wandering through the woods on her way to school one day, and she just finds like a really nice house out in the middle of nowhere, and like, so we get set up with the premise that she was told the story of the Chinese zodiac by her mother, and in the story of the Chinese zodiac, if you're not familiar, there's actually 13 animals and not 12. The 13th animal was the cat. But because of shenanigans, it depends on the telling of the story. Sometimes the cat was like asleep when the race went on. Sometimes they were like betrayed by the rat. Regardless, the cat doesn't end up making it onto the Zodiac, right? And it's always really sad because like, oh, we had, a potential for a cat to be on the Zodiac, but we don't. Even though Tiger is on there, and like, I guess they just don't count tigers as cats. But whatever. So like, we find out that they were told this story as a kid, and they actually related to the cat because the cat was just kind of left out, and they felt sorry for them. So even though they were born in the year of the dog, they actually want to be identified as like being in the year of the cat, which isn't real, and that ends up being important later. But like, we find out, the setup with the backstory, or whatever, that she learned about this story about the cat thing, and like, she feels for them, and she's telling this story to some random dude, just random man that lives in the middle of nowhere that she finds. We later find out this guy's name is Shigure or whatever, and he's just like a guy that lives here with the rest of his family. But before we're introduced to him, he's just a random dude that she just talks to in the middle of the woods that she didn't know lived here. So kind of weird, but whatever. Friendly protagonist is just gonna be friendly, right? But the surprise comes in the fact that Toru meets up with Soma, who's just like this, like he's just the most popular guy in school. Like, just think of Sasuke. He's literally just Sasuke. He's got like the edgy demeanor. He's slightly over aggressive when it comes to random people, especially his family members. And everybody in school just wants to have sex with this dude.
Sure.
Like, yeah, so he's just Sasuke, right? Like, he even has like weird colored hair and bangs. Like, it's all there. He does not have weird eyes though, even though they are kind of big. But it's just, the art style.
Sure.
So we learned that this guy, this popular dude, also kind of lives here. And she's like, "Why are you here in the middle of the woods?" And he's like, "This is just where I live." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." So they go to school or whatever, and just high school stuff happens, and she ends up going back to the woods to live at home, and they find her kind of just out there by herself in the woods, and the Shigure, the guy that she meets first, feels bad for her, and he's like, "Okay, so like, instead of living in the woods, you want to just live here, like, to make it less awkward, right, for everybody. We could have you work here as like a maid or something, so you don't have to, be a freeloader, and you won't feel, obligated to like do something for us." And she's like, "Oh, okay, your house is really nice. I have, no reason not to, live with you. Sure, I guess I will." But she does like the Squidward thing in SpongeBob, where she's like, "I'll only stay here for a little, just until I get better, until I can find a job."
Sure.
But like, they end up taking a liking to her, and they're like, "You can stay here, whatever." But we hear from Soma that she might not be safe to stay in the house.
Oh.
Because of mysterious reasons that we don't know about yet, or whatever. So something happens, right, which causes another person to just kind of appear randomly. There's just a guy that like drop kicks his way through the house, because this just happens, and I forgot about it in the manga, but it's just there. And as soon as they bust through the house, you suddenly find out that there's this new guy, Yuki or whatever, is actually a cat. And whenever he's hugged by a woman, he turns into a cat. And that is a really specific and like weird ability / curse or power or something. And as soon as that happens, right, the reader and the protagonist is like, "Okay, what the hell just happened?" And Shigure just sits her down, and she's like, "All right, so we have a secret that we're gonna tell you, but like, please don't tell anybody else." And we find out that this family, because they're all related to each other, this family has a curse where when they are embraced by a person of the opposite sex, so it doesn't have to necessarily be a woman,
Okay.
they transform into one of the animals of the zodiac.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, the title, Fruits Basket, does not prepare you at all for any of this.
Yeah,
You're like,
no kidding.
"Oh, it's probably like about fruit or like something weird and tangential. Nah, it's about a family of like a bunch of dudes and like three girls that have magic powers that cause them to transform into animals when they're embraced by people of the opposite sex. So like it's really weird. But like she finds out that that Shiguri's a dog and that Soma's a rat. So she's already exposed to three animals that are in the zodiac. Technically, only two, because the cat, like before, isn't a member of it.
Right.
And she learns that there's like family politics involved, with like the complicated relationships between everyone in the family. And Yuki is easily the bottom of the totem pole because he's a cat. He's not actually a zodiac animal.
Sure.
So he's basically been treated like a mistake for his entire life. And it also doesn't help that he's like really moody and aggressive, and that Soma, being the rat, for whatever reason, is extremely good at fighting and is also a genius. I will point to Sasuke yet again. So like, so Yuki's like trying to prove himself in whatever way he's physically capable of, because he's kind of stupid, so he can only do it physically. But he has never beaten Soma in a fight. And Soma is the mouse. He's a rat. He's supposed to be like the smallest and weakest of his family. So like, the fact he can't even beat the rat in the family means he's no contest for anyone else in the family, right? So we learned about the internal family machinations and everything and how the curse works. And Soma basically threatens Toru to like not tell anyone about their secret because it would endanger their family. And he also tells her to like be careful around them, because if she accidentally transforms him into anyone, bad things are going to happen. So when Soma was younger, right, he was at like an elementary school, and one of his female classmates gave him a hug because they're little kids.
Sure.
They when you're young, you're more touchy feely than you are ever in the rest of your life, right? So like little kids be hugging and slapping each other all the time. So like he got a hug from a random girl in his elementary school, and every single person who saw that got memory wiped. We don't know how it happened, but it happened. So like he has trauma related to people seeing him transform. So he's like, okay, I'm doing this for your own safety, and I also don't want to move schools again. I really need you to not transform me, because if anyone sees this happen, we're Men in Blacking them. Like, we're out. We have to leave no trace behind, memory wipe everything, and it's a huge strain on the family. So that's weird. Like, the fact they have these connections or a power that allows them to do this. So we don't know how it happens. We just know it does. And Shiguri takes it to heart, and she's like, okay. Oh, my bad, not Shiguri, that's the other guy. Toru takes it to heart, and she's like, all right, I won't do it, I promise. And then immediately does it on accident. So, the visual gags and the comedy and everything kicking in. But, like, she tries her best to do this, and she gradually, makes her way into everybody's like hearts or whatever. Like they all get used to her, and she's like starting to feel a bit more connected to the family. And as she gets to know them more, she learns more about the insecurities and everything between Yuki and Soma. And it all comes to a head when like Yuki and Soma have like a big fight with each other or whatever. And Toru just has a heart to heart with everybody in the family, and she helps them get out of their funk, and they make up with each other. But then she realizes, me being here is going to be a problem, right? I'm going to cause issues with them. So I'm going to just leave. I'm just going to run away and go back home to the family I didn't want to live with, instead of living in the woods because they might find her again, so that I don't cause these people problems. And as she's about to go, we find her at her home, right? And it turns out that her parents, or like, surrogate parents or whatever, that are taking care of her, are just the worst. Like the dad's really abusive, and they're emotionally manipulative, and they're like just terrible people, and the only person in her entire family that's okay is her grandpa, and he just calls out like her uncle or like whoever on their bullshit. Like he's like, you gotta stop doing this to her, she doesn't deserve this. And she has like almost has like a breakdown while she's there. And as this is happening, of course they kick in the door, because this is just what happens. They kick in the door, and you see Soma and Yuki just appear uninvited to her house. She doesn't even know how they got there, and they just pick her up and take her home with them. Like, they're telling the family, like, thank you for taking care of her for until now, but we're gonna take her. And they're basically just kidnapping her. But, like, the family doesn't stop them from doing this because the grandpa sees that they're, like, good people or whatever, and she also needs a place to live and, like, to escape from these, you know, abusive parents or whatever. So she's just being taken away, and she's crying and everything. And from an outside perspective, this would look terrible, but, like, internally it makes more sense. And we find out in like a flashback of hers that as a child she was also bullied because of course, you know, the sad character isn't sad enough. So we find out she was bullied as a child in elementary school or whatever, and nobody ever wanted to play with her. And the game that she wanted to play the most as a kid was called Fruits Basket, which is the name of the entire series. So, Fruits Basket, the game is just like everybody's given a name for a fruit or whatever, and she wasn't given a fruit. She was named after like a potato or something. So, everybody, you know, just kind of picks on her, and she doesn't get to join any of the baskets of fruit. So, she doesn't become a Fruits Basket with anybody. And as she's being carried away by Yuki and Soma, she's like, oh boy, I finally found people who like me. I might have my own Fruits Basket one day.
What are we, some kind of fruits basket?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so she's like, oh boy, I might have like my own fruits basket one day or whatever. And the last thing that we learn in like the first volume, which I read, is that like there's like some secret like horrifying form that Yuki actually has, like his true form. Spoilers for anyone who cares. In the anime, they bring it up a lot more like quickly, in the fact that Yuki, even though they're like the year of the cat, because they're not technically in the zodiac or whatever, they're cursed to transform into like this weird giant rabbit monster thing. I don't know. It just looks kind of like a rabbit because it has huge ears and it's like a weird fleshy monster thing with fangs. It doesn't matter. He just transforms into a monster every now and then,
He turns into
and as a
Kaguya
curse
from Naruto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Oh,
that was
boy.
Fruits Basket. It's not what I remembered it being, but I'll be honest, I might actually finish reading it again.
Wow.
Well, mostly because I just really want to learn about the other members of their family, because I forgot which ones were which. We do get introduced to the first female member of the cast, you know, to really like hook in those female readers outside of just the boys. So like, you know, we have like female love interests too, or potentially friends. And the only female character we get introduced to is the pig, or the boar, and she has like a thing where she's like super aggressive and makes demands and makes it think as if every demand she makes is consensual. And like her entire plot line is the fact that she really wants to marry Yuki, even though he didn't really want to marry her, and he only said it so that she would stop beating him up. Yeah, it's not a very good character. By today's standards, she would be
Cancelled?
Oh, she'd be Me Too'd so hard. But she's a female character in a you know in a shoujo manga that happens to be really strong and aggressive, so it ends up being more funny and endearing than actually like terrifying. But yeah, so that's just Fruits Basket.
All right. Well, it seems like you got an interesting one this week.
I mean, I technically recommend. It's definitely an acquired taste. I'll be honest, this is one of the few examples where I'd say just watch the anime instead. The anime adaptation for Fruits Basket's actually really good. And there's some things they do in it that are actually better than the manga too.
Oh.
Yeah. So I recommend you just watch the anime. And they released a new season of it anyway, so it'll be even better for you to get into it now.
So you want to move on to the main segment of the day?
Okay. So we're going to get on to the actual topic of today, which is related to the news. So we're going to be talking about Isekai, but like specifically how ridiculous it is. Yeah, okay, so, oh geez, where do we even begin? All right, so the first thing that we can talk about with like the ridiculous nature of Isekai is just the naming conventions. Like, there are some ridiculous names specifically for Isekai manga.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like to start with like tame ones, you get things like Killer Shark in Another World. Seems, you know, fairly self-explanatory, right? Has some type of killer shark and it takes place in another world. Easy, done, simple. No, nothing
I think one of the
complicated.
first ones I ever heard was How to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon.
Yeah, that's a famous one. And that one's also pretty self-explanatory, right? You know, main guy probably has a lot of like female love interests, and they go dungeoneering. Makes sense. It gets kind of confusing when you start getting to stuff like a story about a cat reincarnated in a different world where there are no cats.
Is that a title?
That entire sentence is a title. The only reason it doesn't count as a sentence is because it doesn't end in a period.
All right, fair enough.
And then you get to other titles like in another world where baseball is war, a high school ace player will save a weak nation.
Wow.
Yeah, that's certainly a premise, and I think I know exactly what this is about now. You know how last week we were talking about what Bleach could possibly be about, and like what Naruto could possibly be about? I know the joke on the Naruto one is that it's named after him, but like just hearing the name doesn't really give you any idea of what the series is about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one explicitly tells you what the series is about. Like you would have like absolutely no confusion upon picking this up and starting to read it because it's very literal. Like, oh man, there's some stuff, man. There's some serious stuff here. But like outside of the ridiculous names, right? Uh Actually wait, before we do that, there's one more name that I know of that I wanted to bring up. So this one it just sounds like every fanfic from the early 2000s in a title. It's called Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody.
Jesus, that's like a. That sounds like a DDR expansion.
Right? You're like, oh, okay. So this is like the heavy metal download, right? This is the heavy metal DLC for like Dance Dance Revolution 12. Yeah, Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Ah, God, just dripping with preteen energy.
Yeah, even like normal creators aren't safe from making their isekai series long. Like the Retsu isekai from
Yeah, oh
Baki.
God.
Baki Gaiden Retsukayo doesn't mind even if it's in another world.
like at
Wow.
this point it's just the trope. Like you can't avoid it now. Like there's so many of them that if you're gonna make a new one, you gotta make that thing long. Like that title has to be long and like oddly specific. Otherwise people just they're just not gonna take you seriously, I guess, as a series.
I suppose so.
Uh uh so outside of like the ridiculous titles, the next like most like obvious like thing that makes isekai, right, and just kind of ridiculous is is the ridiculous just premises of the entire series, right? You have stuff like the one we just talked about in the news, a guy being reincarnated as actually a vending machine. So, you know, there's that. Apparently, that's not a unique thing because there's another thing here called like I was a sword when I reincarnated. So the entire series is just about a guy who's a sentient sword. Like that's it. Um. You get like sometimes you get like pretty cool ones, right? Where you get something like what's it called? Like a veterinarian in another world, right? Where it's like a real life guy who has veterinary skills that gets brought into a place filled with monsters, and they still like animals, so they do their best to be a veterinarian with like monsters, and that's just kind of cool, right? But the premise is still a little ridiculous, regardless of how cool it is. Um, we get like I think my favorite premise out of any isekai, um, besides my actual favorite isekai thing, but I'll go on to that later, is Dragon Ball. That time I got reincarnated as Yamcha.
I've read that one. That's
It's actually good, right? Yeah, that one's great. Like you can get like interesting premises, and if it lands, it's pretty nice. Most of the time isekai it it has they always have such a strong start, right? Like it's almost the same problem as shonen manga and anime, where the start of them is almost universally more interesting and engaging than the finish. Like Isekai have the same problem where it's so hard to just end it. Like finding a solid conclusion is so difficult for them to do. And it's understandable because the entire series is basically just setup, right? Like there's only so much you can do to tie up all the loose ends. Um like I think the biggest and easiest example for me to bring up here would just be the ending to Naruto. Like it got wild at the end because they set up so many different plot lines and like strings that they needed to connect that because they only had one real central antagonist in Madara, it could not have ended like actually well. It was gonna be ridiculous and stupid no matter what was gonna happen, just because they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, right? And this happens a lot with isekais too.
Yeah, and even then, they still didn't like tie up all the loose strings.
Yeah, they just tied up like the most important ones that people cared about, like the ones that would actually make you riot if they didn't. Um, I have a I have like a distinct difference in my mind of like isekai manga and anime because so out of all the isekai anime that I've seen, I've almost never read the manga that's associated with them. Just because the storytelling and pacing is usually very weird, right? Because okay, so isekai, as far as I'm aware, right, is a genre that transcends like traditional manga. In that a lot of isekai that I am aware of and have experienced are not Japanese. They would be like manhwa or manka or whatever, where it's actually made in a different country outside of Japan. Like it'll be a Korean like light novel or webtoon that's an isekai, or it would be like a Chinese one, right, which is a similar thing that they do there. So this particular genre is interesting in that like the tropes and everything kind of fall in place all over like across all these countries, and apparently anyone can just do it, right? And the community still enjoys and loves them.
Before we get like too deep into the paint here, you mind explaining what like exactly isekai is
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those who might
So
be unaware?
so my bad for assuming, right, that people know what it is. Within recent like anime time, isekais have become super popular, right? Like there's basically one released every season, but before that it wasn't really a thing. Like the big breakout isekai anime that came around was Sword Art Online, right? But an isekai by definition is simply any like series where the main protagonist slash antagonist, it can be kind of weird sometimes, so but main protagonist, right, like a main plot element, comes from a different world, usually our world. Sometimes they do the reverse, right, like a fantasy character coming to real world, but it's from one world to another, but they are completely conscious and aware of what has happened to them. So like in so okay, so for example with the Sword Art Online example, I'm gonna just use the word again, that I brought up, it's considered an isekai because the other world in question here is the actual game, like Sword Art Online, right? And all of the characters, specifically the main character, is just a real life person that's aware that they're in a video game. So this setting isn't like their home turf or anything. They know that they're from a different place and they know that this world functions differently. And because of that outward knowledge, right, that level of self awareness that most people don't have, um, protagonists in isekai manga go crazy. Like they power level, they power metagame, like they do everything to take this world to like be at their advantage. And because there's like a subtle disconnect between them and the like native population here, a lot of the times they take advantage of the people that live here because they're like, you're not a person, you're not really human, you're just random cat person I found in this world. I'm just gonna like use your entire race to help me grind for levels, right? So an isekai property is just anything that has a person from one place go to another, but they are aware that they've gone to a different place, and they usually interact with the mechanics of that place they've gone to because they're not from there. That's it. That's as simple as I can get it to be. With that in mind, my favorite isekai anime is actually Digimon. So,
Yeah, fair enough. I'll give you
because
that.
yeah, so people don't generally consider like really old like properties like Digimon to potentially even fall under the isekai jurisdiction, right? Like that categorization of things is very recent. Like people didn't even call them like isekais until recently. So like something that's before that term doesn't seem like it should fit, right? But by the definition, it is 100% an isekai. And it's my favorite one. I love Digimon, and because it's also an isekai, it's only made me like it more.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like, do you have any ones that you really like that come to mind? Like now that you have the definition in mind?
I'm very like new to the genre. I did read the Yamcha one, which was pretty good. But I think I also caught up to the Retsu one because I really like Baki.
Yeah,
and that one seems it's interesting so far in that
I just have a feeling he's gonna be so rude.
Oh yeah.
To like everybody in the entire world.
But it's interesting because there are other people from like our world that are in there besides just Retsu.
Yeah, because they do that too sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the anime / manga like Rising of the Shield Hero?
Yeah.
That one has a setting where multiple people have been isekai'd in their world. Yeah. And that's like a really, really important plot point that there's other people here that also know they're not from this world, right? And you have to kind of either get along with them or like defeat them for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens in the Yamcha one too, I think, right?
Yeah. The main antagonist of the entire series is a guy that reincarnated as Chaozu.
Yeah. Oof.
Ooh, yeah, what a guy to come back as. Even Yamcha's a better choice than Chaozu.
Yeah, because at least he was like pulling Bulma in the beginning of Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm not too well versed in the genre, but it definitely seems interesting.
I'm actually certain that you have personally experienced other isekais and you just didn't realize that they were isekais. Like, I'm not talking about, like, the ridiculous ones, like, you know, my pet hamster reincarnated as the Demon Lord, and now I'm his butler, or something.
Yeah.
That's not actually one, but it sounds like it could be. Here's one that has another ridiculous one. It's like, I became the strongest with the failure frame abnormal state skill as I devastated everything. Yeah, so, like... Outside of that ridiculous, nonsense, I'm sure that you've actually experienced other ones that are or would be classified as an isekai. It's just kind of...
Yeah, probably. Like Spy Kids 3?
Yes, that actually counts. It completely counts. Cyber Chase? Scooby-Doo? Cyber Chase? That's one. That's real. That counts.
We're getting into is a hot dog a sandwich territory here, Jack. I think the semantics need to
No. Well, there's no semantics here. A hot dog is definitely a sandwich.
I mean, yes, it is, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to choose any anime world to be isekai'd into, what one do you think you'd have the most success in?
Oh, success in, not even the most fun in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I know the one that I would have the most fun in, but that's not important.
Aw, okay. But fun is fun, though.
I mean, yeah.
Everybody likes fun.
Yeah, it would be super dope to be in the interspecies reviewers world, but, like, it's not...
Oh, okay. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but at least I know where you stand.
Look, you can judge me all you want, but...
No.
I know every single anime fan on the planet would also agree with me.
No, I mean, Monster Musume is pretty good. No, but like, I'm not judging you here, Alex. I'm honestly disappointed in myself for not thinking of it sooner. That is a great one to choose for like just a fun place to be located in.
Oh yeah.
All right, so.
I also think for me a caveat of like isekai, at least one that I've like put on from what I've heard, is that you have the potential to be like the main character of it.
Yeah.
Like you're not just like some dope who's like, I can only lift like less than the average amount of a person can.
Yeah, so like, okay. The funny thing about isekais and the way that they work out, right, is because if I'm going to be isekai somewhere, we're going to have to go under the assumption that this place I get sent to functions off of isekai rules. Which means I am given some ridiculous unfair advantage from the get-go.
Okay.
Right? So, like, I can either stop time, I reincarnate when I die, when I eat things, I gain their skills, or, like, if I train really hard, I get like skills faster than other people. I can see stats, right? Like things that other people couldn't do. Like just some like inherent thing that makes me different and slightly overpowered if I take advantage of it, right?
Right.
Like there's another one that was popular recently about like being reincarnated as a slime.
Yep.
And the thing that made them OP was the fact that they were a slime with actual intelligence. Like normally slimes are stupid. They got nothing. There's no brain going on. You know, slime squishy, head empty. Where because he was smart, right? He was able to manipulate his body in a better way than most slimes could, and he already developed a really overpowered skill in the fact that he can just compress water like a hydro cutter and snipe people through the head with like a beam of water.
Right.
Like after that, he starts shapeshifting and doing all kinds of stupid nonsense. But like, yeah, so if I'm going to any world, right, and you want me to choose a setting for me to be isekai into, I have to be given some ridiculous power, which means by default I'm okay. So being called the protagonist when you live in a setting is kind of ridiculous. It's like in real life if I said I was a protagonist because I was like an Olympic athlete. No, it doesn't make you a protagonist just because you're like a really capable person. That's just being vain. Like, oh, I'm obviously the most important person in the world, and the story, even though there isn't one, but the story is centered around me. No, like everybody's the protagonist of their own life, and assuming that you're the main protagonist is kind of stupid. But the idea of being considered a protagonist in an isekai setting is simply you're the strongest, most influential person on Earth, right? Or at least
I'd
you're
say,
about
like,
to be.
adding like rules to this is would be you have the same potential as the main character, and you can pick where you like land when you get into the world.
Well, that makes things even more busted, if that's the case. Well, okay, so I have to choose a setting that isn't already an isekai, obviously.
Yes.
And when I get there, I'll be under the assumption that I have the same potential for power as the main protagonist of the actual series, but I'm aware of that, and I can choose where I come in. Oh, bro, I really want to say One Piece. Like, I want to see it so bad, but
I actually have a full plan out of how I would manage a One Piece isekai.
yeah, a lot. Okay, if you're a dead, a dead set like One Piece fan, you've already done this. Like anyone who loves the series truly has done this already. I mean, there's already different like formats that you can find online now for like One Piece D&D, which is the closest thing to an isekai you can get outside of playing a video game with like a make your own character. So like, this is definitely a thing. But I can't choose One Piece because it's the easy answer. Because there's so many possibilities. The world's so freaking ridiculous. And having any foreknowledge outside of the world would make you incredibly powerful and also a huge target for the world government. Because I know how so many things function now because I've read the manga. So
I know about the empty
choice,
throne,
but...
you sons of bitches. You can't fool me.
Yeah, right? I know all about you. I'm gonna choke Eneru out with rubber gloves, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Yeah. So like, okay, I have another question. So if we get isekai into this world, not just location, do we also choose what time we come into it? Because timelines are a thing, right? Like,
I think
do we come into when the manga is currently, or do we come into at the beginning of the manga where nothing's happened yet?
I would think you have like a year before the manga starts.
Okay. To get it established truly. All right.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, no seinen, none. All of them are off the table.
Yeah, all bad.
I am not going to Berserk World. I am not going to the Vinland Saga world. No. I'm fine with not being, raped to death by a demon. That's
no Hellsing, that's out.
Oh, no Hunter x Hunter either. That's also out.
I think I can manage Hunter x Hunter.
Okay, but you gotta be really careful, bro. Like, you need to keep a low profile for the most part. Like, maybe develop Nen if you really want to, but like, oh boy, if you the moment you start becoming like an important figure, you're gonna be harassed by everything. I don't know if I want to live with that level of stress in my life.
No, I got this. You want me to give you my plan for Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah?
So I show up in, what is it? Heaven's Arena.
Of course.
It's the
only choice.
Yeah, I find Wing immediately.
Yeah, and you train with him until you can get Nen.
I'm like, yo, dog, I need to get in contact with the chairman of the Hunter Association. some bad shit's gonna happen in like 2 years, and we need to cover now.
Ooh, and you can use that information as leverage in like a bargaining chip and stuff. Yeah.
And then I tell Netero about the Chimera ants and the NGL, and that it's gonna happen in like a year or so. Tell him to like get Kite on that right now, and then I train with Wing for like a year or so, and since I have the same potential as Gon and Killua, I'm like,
you'd be more than you would develop a Hatsu in weeks.
oh yeah,
Like forget a year. Yeah, that year is just spent making bank.
oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question. Would you try to kill Hisoka?
Me? No.
Okay. Well, just knowing like the threat that he poses to basically anybody,
Yeah,
especially
but
those
like,
who are strong.
but I feel like he helps going out way too much for him to be like taken out. You know?
Yeah, he's too important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Would you want to interact with any of the main protagonist characters?
Maybe in like York New City.
Like the least important part, so you don't have to like affect their journey much. Yeah.
Either that, or I take the Hunter exam at the same time as them.
Yeah, and then you'll just be like the ninja guy, where you're just kind of a friend that pops up every now and then.
Yeah, or I just fucking kick out Pokol because
He doesn't deserve to be there. He's also single-handedly responsible for the ants learning Nen.
Yeah. Well, they could have like figured out an end, but they wouldn't have like.
It wouldn't have been as fast.
Exactly. So yeah, no, you're going back to the streets, Pokol. You're out.
You gotta go to your random mountain village where you hunt like rabbits or whatever with your bow. No, even the girl with like the weird bees is better off than you.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man, poor Pokol, such a lame guy. It makes sense that he died though. Ugh.
What isekai would you choose? What
Gotta
would you
answer the question. All right, because I'm gonna ask you after for yours. But okay, so universe where same potential as the protagonist. I can choose the location and get a year before the actual setting starts. So many good options. Okay, I had a funny gut reaction because it's another series that I really enjoy, and I think living in the world would be interesting. But I was about to say Pokemon, but I can't because I'd have the same potential as Ash, and he's terrible.
Right.
So I don't want Ash, unless we're counting Gary as like the protagonist of that world. I do not want to be at the same level as Ash, even though living in the Pokemon universe would be fun. Especially knowing what I know about like EVs, IVs, Pokemon breeding, and all of this stuff. Bro, I could become so wealthy so fast.
Right.
But no. That and also the Pokemon world is very peaceful. It's just like a really chill place to be. But no, I don't want the same potential as Ash, so that one's gonna be a no. It's gonna be a hard pass on that one. Oh man, now this is killing me. I'll have you go first, and then I'll be going through my things in my head, and I'll probably have one by then.
Yeah, I definitely pick One Piece.
Okay, yeah, One Piece, yeah. I mean, it's such a good option, such a good choice.
But here's the thing, right?
Also because Luffy's ridiculous, like with his potential.
Oh yeah.
Man got stretchy powers. Mm-hmm. He's Mr. Fantastic if he fought like the Thing. Like it's like if he can do that with the Gum, you know, the Gumu Gumu no Mi, you could get anything, bro, and you could go crazy.
So here's my plan, right? I land in Logtown. I enlist in the Marines under Smoker. And that whole year, I'm doing sword training with Tashigi.
Okay, yeah.
And like, then all the events happen. We go like to the Grand Line, chasing after the Straw Hats. We're in Alabasta, and then I convince Smoker that we need to follow Straw Hats up to Sky Island because like I know where they're going. But we get there before the Straw Hats do, and then I have Smoker take out Enel because he has Sea Prism Stone.
He does. Also, out of the as far as an elemental pairing is concerned. Because of Smoker's ability, he might just not be affected by Enel. Yeah. In fact, Enel might make him stronger. Just turns him into a storm cloud.
Exactly. And then when like Smoker has Enel like dead to rights with Sea Prism, I have a fucking like pineapple or something, and I just
just kill him.
Bah!
You just cap him and you gain Enel's abilities.
And then Smoker's like, hey, what the hell is that all about? And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh no, he had a weapon on you. He was gonna draw that on you.
You just cap him as soon as he has him dead.
I'm like, crunch, munch, and I eat the fucking Goro Goro no Mi. and I'm
Yeah.
set.
Wait, hold on. So do we know officially from Oda what fruit the Gorogoro no Mi is? Because it has to be the same type of fruit that the original was.
Yes, it's an L's fruit. It's a Logia.
You know, I know. But, like, what physical fruit is it? Because it has to go back to the same physical fruit.
No, it goes to the nearest fruit.
Oh, it doesn't matter which kind?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Why a pineapple? Why not something like a single cherry?
I don't know.
Make it easier for yourself so you don't have to eat an entire pineapple.
You know, they say you don't have to eat the whole thing.
Okay, biting into the side of a pineapple is just painful, bro.
I just
You
said
can make this
pineapple
easier on
because I was
yourself.
thinking about One Piece and Marco, and you know.
Yeah. Oh, you want to take a bite out of Marco? Take a bite of that chicken? that Phoenix boy?
But
yeah.
and then I'd be fucking set.
Yeah, well, because you'd have the same potential as Luffy, and you know Enel was wasting his potential.
Exactly.
Like, because he got cocky. Because he has a really, really powerful devil fruit.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, and unfortunately for him, he's low power level for somebody with a fruit of that potential. So, like, you'd be nuts. Like, the only person in the world that could even keep up with you would be, what's his name? Yeah, Kizaru. And he wouldn't want to because he's too lazy.
Exactly. But I trained with Smogo with, like, being a Logia for, like, until the Straw Hats bust out of Eni's lobby. And then I'd be like, hey, Smoker, you could transfer me to Vegapunk? Because I think my fruit might help him out with some of his science.
Or whatever, yeah.
So then I get to meet fucking Vegapunk early?
I love the fact that that's an end goal for you. Like, okay, I'll be honest, even being in this world, and as cool as it is, I really want to just see Vegapunk already.
I know,
been
right?
Actually, 20 years. I just need this.
But there's, like, no place... I can't picture when, like, Oda would put Vegapunk in. That's the thing. But, yeah, I meet Vegapunk, I'd be like, yo, what's up, dog? And then I think Vegapunk's the one person I could trust. And I'd be like, yo, dog, I'm not from around here.
And as soon as he finds out, he'll be best friends with you because he'll be studying you night and day because you're an alternate universe human. Like,
I'd be like, dog,
boy.
I'm on the fucking level, dude.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, you'd also be kind of weird to begin with because you'd be short by the standards of One Piece's world.
I mean, yeah, 5'10", that's like,
Like, when humans can get to be ridiculous... Like, even Garp is really big, and he's, like, a pretty normal dude.
Yeah, hold on. How tall is Zoro?
Oh, Zoro's almost the same height as you. I think he's 5'11".
Yeah.
And Sanji and Zoro, I think, are the same height? Or they were, like, pre-time skip or whatever?
They look like they are, anyway.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, Garp is 9'5".
Yeah.
Which means Luffy's got the genes in him. He got that potential to be huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd let's slip to Vegapunk or whatever. I'd probably, like, I don't know, since Kuma would probably be there, and I'd be like, yo, dog, what's like, your deal?
Okay, so you want to get Isekai to One Piece so you can find out all the secrets, don't you?
Maybe.
Come on, Alex. Don't do this, man.
But,
you got this one chance to be in another world and you choose One Piece so you can learn all these secrets.
Maybe.
Oh,
but,
man. No, you go to Marijois before it gets destroyed, and you just learn how to read. You read all the poneglyphs so you can just go to them. Oh, man.
That would be advanced, but that would require me being 20 years before the story starts.
That's fair.
But when I inevitably get sent to Marineford, yeah, I'd stay back a little bit. I'm measuring what's up.
You don't want to join the Straw Hats?
Hold on, I'm getting to it. I might fling a bolt here or there, just to get Kainu off my back.
To show that you're trying, basically the same level of like effort that Aokiji did. He's like, I'll make like a big iceberg and I'll like try to free Straw Hat once.
It's like
whatever.
I'll like stop like bad things from happening to everyone, but like I'm not gonna like directly fight anybody. Are you crazy?
Yeah, like I'm not a stupid. I'm not gonna do that to myself.
And then right before Shank shows up, when like Kobe's giving his speech, and like Akainu's like, are you done? And he's about to like hit Kobe. I'd kick him right in the face. I just deck him right in the schnoz, send him flying. I'd say something along the lines of like, enough. Is this what you call justice? I'd say some bullshit.
Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah, something that makes the Kainu mad and also makes you look better in the eyes of the everybody else there.
exactly. And then Shanks would show up, and then he'd be like, you got guts, kid. And you're like, thanks. And then I'd like, I don't know.
No, would you prolong the fight so you could see Shanks fight finally?
Oh, could you imagine? Oh.
You provoke a Kainu, make him fight Shanks. Shanks kills the Kainu right there. He's like, oh, all right,
Oh, that'd be sick. But
problem solved. Yeah.
and then like whatchamacallit, and then like Shanks would be like, hey, can you give this hat to Straw Hat? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I jump on the Polar Tang, and I'd be like, hey, I know I'm a Marine, but like, trust me on this one. I'm like Corazon, you know, wink.
And they're like,
And I was like, what the fuck?
And they're like, are you a member of Sword? I don't know what this means.
How do you know what sword is, Law?
Right? It's like, yeah, the moment you say Corazon's name, Law will either A, try to kill you immediately, or just stop. Like, whatever he was doing, he'll just stop.
Oh yeah, he's definitely stopped.
He has no idea what to do. The moment that happens, he's like, oh, we're doing this. Okay.
I'd probably say something along the lines of like, hey, you can like take my heart out and like give it to Jinbei, if I like do anything funny, just to like
give yourself insurance.
Exactly.
And him insurance. Yeah.
And then I'd ask to join Luffy's crew, and I'd train with him with Rayleigh for 2 years.
Hey.
I'd be like, hey, Luffy, it's real bad what happened to your brother and stuff. I don't fuck with that. Can I be your bro?
But, yeah, it's like, you know what? It's like, I'll be your brother. Oh, that's really funny.
And also, since I know more about like New World stuff, I'd press Rayleigh to like train us more. I'd be like, hey,
yeah, because you understand how strong it is and that you're just not prepared.
I'd be like, hey, Rayleigh, what's up with this whole Ryuo thing that I keep hearing about?
And he's like, what? From day one, you've been dropping things. It's like, he pulls you to the corner and he says, have you seen the One Piece? Just be honest with me, bro. Were you there? Did I not realize you were on our crew as like a baby? And you're like, nah, don't worry.
I think Rayleigh would be the second person I'd tell about the fact that I'm.
Yeah, because he's also definitely trustworthy.
Yeah, he's on the level.
Rayleigh's he's a bro.
Yeah, the only three I would tell would be Vegapunk, Rayleigh, and Robin. And then I'd be on the Straw Hats from then on.
Yeah, and then you can just do the shenanigans, help them fight.
I'd go with them to Whole Cake Island because they definitely needed fighters there. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. Like, oh, it's a stealth mission. No, it's not.
It is not a stealth. You're with Luffy on your crew. You know it's not going to be a stealth mission.
Exactly. So I'd probably take out
the moment that monkey joins you, it's over.
So I'd probably take out like Sparrow or whatever, so that Pedro's still alive. And...
doesn't have to die. Yeah. Also, Sparrow would have nothing to counter your abilities.
Oh yeah, zilch.
Well, Candy. You think Candy can stand up to lightning? Yeah, about that. All right, so I think I have my world picked. Okay, I lied. I don't have my world picked, but I have a tie.
Yeah?
All right, so the tie that I have, because I really, really wanted to just lean in on that like protagonist potential thing here, right? Is that either A, I would want to be in the Dragon Ball universe, so I got Goku's potential.
Okay.
Which is ridiculous, and I'd be able to help them, significantly, because I'd want to help them anyway. And being a member of the Z Fighters doesn't mean I have to be best friends with them. It's just that means I show up when the world's about to die.
Right.
Again. And also because I know the Dragon Balls exist, I would replace Vegeta like nobody's business. I need that sugar mama in my life, and Bulma is the one who can fix me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one choice, right? For the potential reasons, and also for whatever reason, either the food in Dragon Ball is the same as our world and all alien food in the universe is just bad, or somehow the food in Dragon Ball is so good compared to our world that it would just blow my nuts off every time I go there and eat anything. So
Fair
I
enough.
also really want to go there for the food.
Oh yeah. Also,
'Cause apparently,
you reminded me.
yeah.
In Dressrosa, I'd definitely pick up Baby Five instead of Sai.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
snatch that low hanging fruit off of them.
I was about to say it's the lowest possible hanging fruit. Literally saying, "Please don't kill yourself. I value your life." Done.
And she's like best girl too. Honestly.
Yeah, no, like even outside of like her horrible like mental complex that she has about being needed, she's actually just a really nice person.
Yeah.
And her fruit's also OP as hell. Like being able to turn into a missile that doesn't somehow take like recoil damage from exploding. That's pretty redonk in a world that doesn't have that level of technology. Even though sometimes they can shoot lasers. Yeah. Okay. So Dragon Ball is one of the options, right? Another option, right, for potential reasons, right, is My Hero Academia.
Okay.
Deku has, Deku has one for all, man. That automatically makes the potential for power so ridiculous. We also know for a fact that in the beginning of the series he states that he is the strongest hero, which means I'm either second strongest or I'm tied. So and because it's My Hero Academia, my power is gonna kind of be random. Like I won't get a choice as to what it is.
Well,
right?
what
I'll
would you
exist.
like? What category would you prefer it to be? Emitter, transformation, or mutant?
Personally, I'd probably want to choose emitter, just because I don't want to look like a freak of nature.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I prefer just looking like a normal dude. So like I would just choose that option.
I mean, like technically, Tokiyami has a transformation quirk, so like, and he still looks like a bird.
Yeah, but the only ones who don't really look like birds or like weird monsters are the ones who emit. Like they have the smallest portion of them that don't look freaky.
Yeah.
And honestly, out of any category, I could make it work, right? Like it doesn't matter which one I actually get. If I have the same potential as freaking, as Deku, it doesn't even matter. I could be a guy whose entire quirk is the fact that he looks a little bit like a chihuahua. And I'd still be really OP just because I have to be. Yeah, so like I would choose emitter, and whatever like elemental random nonsense that they give me, I'll be able to work with it. So that universe is also interesting just because the universe has like a superhero society, and I think that'll be really cool to be in.
I was also gonna mention the fact that with like series like that where it's like you're just like relegated to like high school kids, you would be in high school just because it would be kind of weird if you were in UA and like, hey, look, it's me. I'm 26 years old.
No, but I'd be fine with going back to high school. I enjoyed my time in school.
Yeah, especially if it's like a superhero school, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it would be really cool. Like, because I'd come in a year before the main series starts, and the main series starts senior year after they graduate. So I just have to go through senior year of high school all over, or middle school all over again, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so that's another choice, right? Because I like the society involved, and having the same potential as Deku is just broken. And also having foreknowledge about certain events would be really beneficial for that particular setting in, for reasons.
Yeah.
Like, All Might can have a longer career because we can give him some warnings, right? We'd know about, like, the identity of, like, these evil people. Like, yeah, it would be beneficial for everybody.
Sure.
Aizawa would still be able to see, like, all of that. Yeah, so that was another one. And my last choice of the tie there is actually Toriko.
Ah, very interesting. I was thinking about Toriko, but then I was like, I don't know.
So the world of Toriko is pretty horrifying. I'll be honest. If you exist there, oh boy, you gotta get ready for some weird shit.
It's kind of like almost as bad as Hunter x Hunter, to be honest.
Like, everything in Toriko is either edible or willing to eat you.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little middle ground there. The only things that aren't edible and trying to eat you are the buildings. And sometimes not even then. So, like, I would be in the Toriko universe, and I would have the same potential as Toriko. And Toriko is the protagonist who's literally becomes God. So, like, I'm set. I am so good, man. And I don't even want to, like, become one of the sacred 11 children or whatever. that are like in that universe, I might not even join the organization, right? But because I have the same level of potential as Toriko, I'd be just as successful in whatever else I do in that world, right? And personally, I think I would actually really enjoy being a chef, like being a cook in that setting,
Sure.
right? And also because some of the cooks in the setting, they get wild, dude. Like, so crazy that, like, I look at a guy and I can identify all of his muscle fibers by looking at him because I'm so good at cutting meat. Like, I can tell that your child has cancer because I looked at their left foot, or like I smelled their BO once or something. Like, the cooks get crazy in
Yeah.
that setting. So like, if I became a cook and I had the same level as Toriko, that would be great, right? I'd be the best cook in the world. You know, I'd become the god of cooking and like all of this stupid nonsense. But also as a cook, I can choose to just avoid all of these super dangerous like world-ending events too, right? And I can just enjoy being a cook, making bajillions of dollars, eating the best food possible.
Oh yeah.
And also because I have the same potential as Toriko, I'd have like a metabolic rate of digesting like 18 million calories an hour. So like I could eat everything and it would be awesome.
Would you be bros with Komatsu?
Oh, I would be his best friend. Cuz the series starts after he basically graduates medical, or not medical, like culinary school. I'd replace his friend. His stupid friend that makes like the imaginary fantasy food, you know, stuff. I don't care about that guy. I'd kick him out. He's actually kind of a jerk anyway, and I'd become Kamatsu's best friend. Oh, man. I actually kind of find it funny by the end of the series that, like, the biggest change that happens to Kamatsu is the fact that his nose gets smaller.
Oh.
So, you know how in the entire series, like, there's a fixation on how gigantic his nose is?
Yeah.
Like, the last chapter of the manga, after he eats God, because, you know, of course everybody eats God by the end,
Sure.
but when he eats God, he goes through a transformation that allows him to, like, have like, a hunger beast, or, like, hunger demon, which is really cool. But, like, the transformation he goes through just makes him look, like, more handsome. That's it.
Nice.
Like, his cheekbones get better, and he gets a smaller nose that's more presentable. Like, that's it. That's what happens to him. Nothing else about him changes. So like, you know, I would totally be best friends with him. And if anything, he and Toriko would visit me, and they would like, you know, come with me to like experiment and like work on ingredients and stuff. That'd be so cool. Yeah, so those are the options that I would like choose with that.
Well, I think that's enough on the isekai genre.
Yeah, you gotta stop me. I'd be able to go forever if we kept going on this.
Yeah, me too. But shall we spin the wheel and decide what our next volume is gonna be?
Yep.
All right.
Oh man, I hope I get like a good one that I know.
Right. Okay. Well, let's spin for you, Jack. And spinning the
Alright.
wheel.
And it looks like oh dang it passed Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, I'm getting yeah!
Oh, man.
I actually got Toriko. That is incredible. Hell yeah.
Lucky.
Oh man, oh dude. Okay, so I've already read Toriko before, right? And I'm not sure if we established this rule in the beginning, but if it's a series that we've already read, instead of reading the first volume, we just talk about like a volume that we liked in particular.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go through the whole series and find the one that I liked the best, but like, I'm so hyped that I got Toriko.
Yeah, lucky. All right. Now it's on to me. Let's see what I get. Come on.
Lucky spin. Oh.
Wow, how about that?
Hey.
Dragon Ball. Okay.
Wait. Oh man. Nah. Next time's gonna be hype, dude. we got some stuff.
Yeah. No kidding. All right. Well, that's it for episode 2. Any closing remarks, Jack?
Well, for anyone who's decided to give us a chance and watch us again for episode 2, thank you. I hope you weren't disappointed. And if you were, you know, whatever. You don't have to come to episode 3. But I hope you did enjoy it, and I hope to see you again.
Indeed. And that'll be it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, and yeah, until next week.
I've been Jack.
I've been Alex.
All right, bye.
Goodbye.